Welcome to the Land Your Bet Sports Betting Show. 3 games on Tuesday, recording this on Monday night, getting ahead of this stuff with you. Just watched the OKC Thunder close their series. Just watched the Nuggets close their series against the Lake Show. So now we've got 3 teams already moving ahead after Minnesota beat Phoenix last night. I'm going to be going through 5 best bets that I already have here for you guys for Tuesday. Even though it's still Monday, getting ahead of these props with you, like I said. Going to go over the record with you. 3-4 on the night on Monday. Wish we would have had that LeBron James triple-double, just 1 rebound shy. I'll run through that real quick. We'll see how we're doing in the playoffs. Get right into these bets with you. Let's get it. Still 1.3 units up total, but interestingly, after a season where the Playa Props dominated and carried us to glory, the sides and totals are now carrying us to victory here in the playoffs. 6-1 with the sides and totals, plus 4.6 units. Another tough day here with a couple hooks and LeBron James triple-double, a blowout in Boston, or it was in Miami for Boston, and that meant that Jaylen Brown didn't really need to play much in the second half, so that kind of screwed up our props there. For some reason, Eric Spoelstra kept refusing to play Nikola Jovic, even though he was the only dude that could shoot in that game for Miami. It's the reason they lost. Once again, couldn't make a 3, couldn't stop Derek White from making 3s, and Jovic couldn't make the floor. So SGA would have gotten over, missed more free throws in this game than he has missed in a game all season. So that was another weird little anomaly that really kept us from getting over the hump here for the night. So lost 0.9 units here on Monday, but we look forward to getting it back here on Tuesday. Let's jump into those bets. Kicking it off with Kyle Big Booty Lowry, over 3.5 assists for Lowry in this one. Still getting plus money, plus 114 on DraftKings. Feels a little bit like a trap, and I get that because he just had 7 assists in this last game, game 4 versus the Knicks that they lost. But at the same time, I still believe in the uptick in assists for him. I believe in the downward trend of Joel Embiid's health and his availability in this series. I mean, he's still going to play, but as you see, when we move into the second half, especially, he becomes less and less effective, and other guys are forced to step up. Kyle Lowry has definitely been one of those dudes. You could also add the rebounds to this, and I wouldn't hate it because he's actually 3rd on the team in rebound chances in this series, behind Joel Embiid and behind Tobias Harris, but ahead of Kelly Oubre just slightly with a few more rebound chances, about half a rebound chance more per game that he's averaging in this series. So if you want to add that, I'm cool with it, but I still like the assist for plus money. We have a very large edge to the over here at plus 114. So I've got a half a unit on it. If you look at him with Philly on the season now, he's played about 32 games during the regular season, 4.1 assists per game in that time at about 29 minutes per game. Now in this series, in the last 4 games, he's at 34 minutes per game. Like, Nick Nurse trusts this dude over pretty much everybody else on his team besides Maxey and Joel, and that's why you see him still getting those minutes. He's gone over in the last 2 with Joel, slowing down, like I kind of mentioned. Embiid has really, really bad numbers in the second half of the playoff games since last season. And so there's other guys who we've seen having to step up here in the second half. Kyle Lowry has been one of those, getting a couple boards and assists rather per half over the course of the last couple games, right? And really what I'm looking at here is that since Joel came back, his assists dwindled right away. As soon as Embiid was back in the lineup, it was like, get Joel the ball. Everything was about focusing on Joel on offense for Philly. And as a result, Kyle Lowry was kind of figuring out how to get into the groove of the offense with Embiid and Maxey. Well, in the last couple games, really 4 games, he's been up to about 7.5 potential assists per game, like it says there at the top. And you see the potential assist jumping up, the assist jumping up. Everything is ticking upwards for him as he went from like 1 assist when Joel was back to 2 in the second game to 3 in the third game, and so on and so forth, until he's now played about 5 games with Embiid, and the last one had the most assists in it at 7, but he's gone over this number in the last 2, and I think that continues with the way that he's sort of that outlet, and you've got OG Anunoby hawking all over the place Tyrese Maxey, which really leaves Kyle Lowry alone to be a one-on-one sort of playmaker and facilitator after that ball swings around to him and Maxey's forced to get rid of it. So we're going to go with a half a unit for Kyle Big Booty Lowry to get 4 dimes in this game. Got to go with an under in this Cavs and Magic game, expecting another low-scoring affair, and the Magic probably not ripe to get another 120 points like they were scoring at home. They've scored a bunch more fewer points on the road all season than they do at home, and that was indicative too in the first 4 games of this series, where they only had they didn't even get to 90 points in either of the games against the Cavs. I think their offense is going to come along a little bit more than it did in the first 2 games. We saw that as a real sort of get the yips out for this new young team. But I still don't like Gary Harris to be involved. Like, no offense to Gary Harris. He's been great on defense. He's been really, really good, actually, at shutting down Darius Garland. And that's really why he's out there. That's his whole job. It's not to be involved in the offense. And I assure you, he has not been. So he's got 28 minutes per game in this series, including the blowout. So, like, I think he's probably more likely to get 30 to 32 minutes in this game. But that doesn't matter. He got 32 plus minutes in the first 2 games of this series in Cleveland, like we are where we are now. And everything was still under for him except for game 2. Now in game 2, it was an outlier because Jalen Suggs went down. So once you lost Jalen Suggs, this was the best defender on the floor for the Magic perimeter wise. And the dude who was expected to be the shooter and catch and shoot guy, once Paolo and Franz and all them, basically those 2 guys, had to get rid of the ball because they were drive. And if they got collapsed upon by that Cleveland defense, or they met really good defender Jared Allen or Evan Mobley in the lane, then they had to kick out to guys like Suggs or Gary Harris. But it's been Suggs all series. So in the one game where he had like 14 points, he got 6 rebounds and assists combined in that game 2. He's averaging 8 PRA with that game. You take that game out and the other 3 games where he has been playing with Jalen Suggs, we're looking at 3.5 field goals, 2.5 potential assists, 2.8 rebound chances. That's led to 1.5 points per game, 1 dime, and 2 rebounds per game in those other 3. And I think that's way more likely to be what we see once again from Gary Harris now that Suggs is back and healthy, completely fine on that ankle, and actually getting a good amount of shots himself. Gary's not getting any. So I'm going to keep going with him under here, 9.5 PRA, based on just a lack of usage. Interrupting myself real quick to let you know about the Discord. I had the incorrect link in the video yesterday. We've got it back up and popping there. If you want to jump in, link is in the description there, so you can go ahead and check out everything we're getting. I'm getting plenty of great looks from everybody in there. As I continuously tell you guys, it's free right now. So I would definitely jump in. Going to be doing some more giveaways as we have right now a contest up for the NBA playoffs. So having a really good time in there, man. It's an awesome community. Really, really urge you guys to jump in there and get into that Discord link. Back to the bets, though. Deuce McBride, baby. We got Miles McBride over 8.5 points here. I got a half a unit on Miles because the only thing that scares me about Miles is that his shooting has been really good. That I know that sounds weird that it would scare me, but at some point he's got to come back down from the kind of shooting tear that he's been on. He did have one bad game so far shooting wise, went 4 for 11 in that game 2, I believe, and only scored 8 points in that one. Every other game he's been over this 8.5 point mark. And we got Bogey out in this one. And so Bogey was only taking a few minutes. I would say Deuce already sort of overcame that and was really the dude off the bench instead of Bojan, even though Bojan got more minutes in the first game. Deuce came back in the next 3 and out-minuted him. And then he didn't play in the last one. And we already know that he's out for this next one. So this is going to be the only real sort of oomph off the bench that you're going to get for the Knicks in this game. And I also just think he's been an incredible defender, which is why his minutes have been sort of maintained at above 20, 22 minutes. Got 28 in the last game. Also had another game with 26. Like I said, now that there's no more Bogdanovic, this is the best offensive player coming off the bench for this team. So I expect his 22 to 25 minutes to be maintained. 9.5 field goal attempts, also a really good number for somebody just trying to get 9 points, right? Especially when you're hitting threes, which he's done really well. He's got a very high 3-point percentage. That's the only thing that scares me about the numbers coming down for him. But he's been getting fourth quarter minutes. He's been playing a ton in the second half. And like I said, they're really relying on him as a perimeter defender, which does give him more minutes. And so we can expect that. The other thing is he's been an incredible outlet as all the pressure is just obviously on Jalen Brunson. There's no way that Nick Nurse can allow Jalen Brunson to just do his thing in the mid-range moving forward the way he has in the last 2 games, getting the 45 in that last game and almost breaking the Knicks record all time in the playoffs that was set by Bernard King, right? So, like, if you do, then fine. Nick Nurse is just going to watch Jalen Brunson score another 35 to 40 points. If he decides to throw another defender from the wing at him, now you've got another situation where Miles McBride, Deuce here, is going to be pretty open for that spot-up stuff, which Philly's not very good against spot-up shooters or transition. And Miles has also been another dude running in transition very frequently in this series with Dante DiVincenzo and Josh Hart leading the way in terms of that category. But Miles has been a huge part of that, and that's where you see Philly most vulnerable. So all of that combined with the fact that they're back in New York, role players play better at home. We saw that from Deuce in the first 2 games, playing a little bit better than he did in games 3 and 4, or at least shooting a little bit better. So I think it's going to come right back to that same usage rate, about 19% of a usage rate for Deuce McBride in this series, believe it or not, as it's almost like he's got the second highest usage after you see Jalen Brunson. Just not the same minutes as a guy like Josh Hart or DiVincenzo, but still the usage so high that if he's in there for 20 to 25 minutes, you got to expect another 9 to 10 field goals, which should get us over the 9 points that we are 8.5 points that we need for Deuce McBride. Couple more here. Got a team total. I love this bet here for the Pacers. Getting back to my team total ways as I was doing during the regular season pretty frequently. And for the Pacers here, I don't really care what's going to happen with you. There's rumblings, by the way, that Giannis might play in game 5 of this series as the Pacers are actually looking to close this out right at this point as they head back there up 3-1 now after 4 games in this series. Back in Milwaukee, but everything has been just upright, right? And going in the right direction here for Indy. They got the game 1 jitters out of the way. I mean, look at the game 1 stuff for Indy. They had 20 assists and 12 turnovers. Not exactly what you're looking for from this team that relies so heavily on assists for its playmaking and its scoring. But then in the last 3 games, completely turned it around. So it's really the dimes and the turnovers and somewhat of the shooting, but mostly that stuff that really helped me go, I think this is just a different team than it was in game 1 when most of these dudes had never played a playoff game, right? 34 assists per game in the last 3, 6.7 turnovers on average in the last 3 games of this series now, 124 points per game, 50% field goal, 43% from deep. So like this is right back into one of the best offenses in the league, a team that has had the best effective field goal shooting percentage all season, in part because they get open shots off of assists and they love to take those threes, right? So now that they're back to that, with the run, they're running on this old team. They've got the pace and space going with a ton of confidence. The threes are flying, and I just do not trust this Bucks team with Dame still probably out, Chris Middleton doing his thing, but still a little bit older and longer in the tooth. Maybe not the same dude that could potentially carry an offense for a few games in the playoffs. I don't really trust him to do it again in a 3rd game in 4 nights. So we're going to take this Pacers, a young upstart team, to handle the old Bucks and move on in this playoffs. And then also want to take 1 sec to let you know that if you don't yet have a Props.cash account, use that code LYB24, get 25% off the first month. I highly recommend it. It's a perfect time to do it as the playoffs are rolling along. Get 1 month of playoffs so that you can look at Props.cash, get used to it, see if it's really helpful for you. It's been a one-stop shop for me. I use it every day on the live stream at 5:30 p.m. Eastern as I go through bets with you guys and use it as a really good starting point and almost like the homepage for the live stream as we look at all these player props together. So would highly recommend at least testing it out. Even if you don't want to keep it, fine. You don't love the product, whatever, but I would at least jump in there and get that code to get some money off and spend the $15 on it to try it out for a month and see if you like it. And we close it out with Kelly Jr., Kelly Oubre, over 16.5 PR. I'm fine with the points at 11.5 as well. I'm probably going to put a half a unit on that bet myself, but wanted to give you guys the PR because I also already bet on that. And I still think that we're in a spot here where this number is below his season average. Even with Joel Embiid on the floor, he's still at about 18 points and rebounds per game with Embiid. Without him, I mean, he's up at about 24. Like, it's not even close. And I think that's relevant here for a couple reasons. One is he's going to be out there for minutes. Even when Joel's out, when Joel's on the floor, it doesn't matter. Oubre's out there to guard Brunson. That's a huge part of his duties, which is why you see him out there for about 37.5 minutes per game in this series and mirroring Jalen Brunson's minutes as much as Nick Nurse can afford to have Kelly Oubre out there for 38 to 42 minutes, right? Which is what Brunson is playing. The other thing is the second half has been so important for Oubre because, and really for the 76ers via Oubre, because Joel slows down, like I said. And so what we've seen from Oubre is total spark plug stuff where he's come in. He took 12 shots in the second half of this last game, had 12 points. He has the third most second half minutes per game after Embiid and Maxey because they've obviously clearly decided that he's that important when this offense gets really stagnant like it has for large periods of the third and fourth quarter, in part because Joel's so tired. Like, let's just call it what it is. Dude is wearing down as the game goes on. He's not totally healthy. So it makes total sense that whatever shot that they gave him before the game started, not as effective once halftime and third and fourth quarter come around. So he's up to about 9 field goal attempts per game in this series. And like I said, taking a ton of shots in the second half, took 15 in the last game overall. Most of those came in the second half. And he's also been a really big spark plug in the first quarter. scoring more than 6 points in each of the last 2 first quarters of this series. So I think he just needed a minute to like pick himself up and be told like, yo, you're way too important to the rebounds. You're way too important to our scoring, especially to not be taking it and being aggressive here moving forward. So I think we're going to continue to see that aggression from Kelly O that we've seen in the last 2 games, and he gets over the 16.5 PR as well as the 11.5 points alone. And that is all the time that I have for you in this one. Definitely want to make sure you come back to that live stream tomorrow, 5:30 p.m. Eastern, each and every weekday moving forward. A little bit earlier on the weekends, but tomorrow here on Tuesday, going to be going live 5:30 p.m. on the East Coast out there. So make sure you tune in, bring your bets. We go through them in the comments. You bring them in the comments. Then I go through them on video and show you what we're looking at here, give you all the tools that I've got. All the links to the tools that I use are in the description of every video, as well as the link to that Discord and the land your bets, a little promo there for Props.cash, LYB 24, all in there for you guys to use. So make sure you're checking that out. Best of luck here. And until I see you next, happy betting.